Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 5, Chapter 23. The Countess Lydia Ivanovna had been married when she was a very young and enthusiastic girl to a good-natured young fellow, very wealthy, aristocratic, and dissolute. 2 months after the wedding, her husband deserted her. He had replied to her effusive expressions of love with scorn and even hatred, which no one who knew the Count's kindliness and were not acquainted with the faults of Lydia's romantic nature could comprehend. Since then, without any formal divorce, they lived apart, each in their own way, the husband never meeting his wife without that bitterness which puzzled people to understand. The Countess long ago ceased to worship her husband, but she was always in love with someone, not seldom with several at once, men and women indiscriminately, and generally with notabilities. Thus she lost her heart to each of the new princes and princesses who married into the imperial family. Then she was in love with one metropolitan, one vicar, and one priest. Then she was in love with a journalist, 3 Slavophiles, and Komisarov. Then with a foreign minister, a doctor, an English missionary, and finally, Karenin. These multifarious love affairs and their different phases of warmth or coldness in no wise hindered her from keeping up the most complicated relations both with the court and society. But from the day when she took Karenin under her special protection, from the time when she began to busy herself with his domestic affairs and work for his salvation, she felt that all her former passions were of no account, but she now loved Karenin alone with perfect sincerity. Besides, as she analyzed her former sentiments and compared them with those she now experienced, she clearly saw that she would never have loved Komisarov if he had not saved the Emperor's life, or Ristil-Kojitsky had not the Slav question existed. But Karenin she loved for himself, for his great unappreciated spirit, for his character, for the sound of his voice, his deliberate speech, his weary eyes, his soft white hands and their swollen veins. Not only did the thought of seeing him fill her with joy, but it seemed to her that she saw on her friend's face the expression of a feeling like her own. She did her best to please him, no less by her person than by her conversation. Never before had she spent so much on her toilet. More than once she found herself wondering what would happen if she were not married and he were only free. When he came in, she colored with pleasure, and she couldn't restrain a smile of ecstasy if he said something pleasant to her. For several days the Countess had been greatly annoyed. She knew that Vronsky and Anna were back in Petersburg. It was necessary now to spare Alexey Alexandrovitch the torture of seeing his wife. How could she free him from the odious thought that this wretched woman was living in the same town with him and might meet him at any instant? Lydia Ivanovna sent inquirers on foot to discover the plans of these repulsive people, as she called Anna and Vronsky, and she tried to direct all of Karenin's movements so that he might not meet them. The young adjutant, a friend of Vronsky's, from whom she learned about them, and who was hoping through the Countess Lydia Ivanovna's influence to get a position, told her that they were completing their arrangements and expected to depart on the following day. Lydia Ivanovna began to breathe freely once more, when on the next morning she received a note, the handwriting of which she recognized with terror. It was from Anna Karenina. The envelope of English paper, thick as bark, on an oblong, yellow sheet of paper adorned with an immense monogram. The note exhaled a delicious perfume. Who brought it? The commissioner from the hotel. The Countess waited long before she had the courage to sit down and read it. Her emotion almost brought on one of her attacks of asthma. At last, when she felt calmer, she opened the following note, written in French. Madame la Comtesse, the Christian sentiments filling your heart prompt me with an unpardonable boldness, I fear, to address you. I am unhappy at being separated from my son, and I ask you to do me the favor of letting me see him once more before I depart. If I do not make direct application to Alexey Alexandrovitch, it is because I do not wish to give this generous-hearted man the pain of thinking of me. Knowing your friendship for him, I felt that you would understand me. Will you have Seroja sent to me here, or do you prefer that I should come at an appointed hour? Or would you let me know how and at what place I could see him? You cannot imagine my desire to see my child again, and consequently you can't comprehend the extent of my gratefulness for the assistance that you can render me in these circumstances. Anna. Everything about this note exasperated the Countess Lydia Ivanovna. Its tenor, the allusions to Karenin's magnanimity, and the especially free and easy tone which pervaded it. Say that there's no reply. And hurriedly opening her blotting paper, she wrote to Alexey Alexandrovitch that she hoped to meet him at about 1 o'clock at the palace. It was the Emperor's birthday, and the imperial family received congratulations. I must consult with you in regard to a sad and serious affair. We will decide at the palace when I can see you. The best plan would be at my house, where I will have your tea ready. What's absolutely necessary. He imposes the cross, but he gives us also the strength. She added that his mind might be somewhat prepared. The Countess wrote Alexey Alexandrovitch 2 or 3 times a day. She liked this way of keeping up her relations with him, and thought it both elegant and mysterious, while ordinary ways were not sufficient.